Hello, this is Mohammed here from Group 0 and 2, just giving a rundown on our project, which is as titled An Insight on the Correlation of Social Media Impressions and Box Office Performance. This project was really fun because we were able to use many of the different techniques we learned during the quarter about what it means to execute a relatively large-scale data science project like this, and the implications behind it. We use many of these techniques, such as being able to effectively scrape web data, clean set data, and other things of that nature that are integral to data wrangling. This technique can be seen when we use our two data sets, one being Movie Report, which was previously a messy data set with the list of the top 100 American movies, both domestically, internationally, and worldwide. We were able to clean up the dates in which the movies were released and also made it so the box office numbers were properly transformed to an appropriate data type. For our second data set, which was essentially Twitter tweets, we basically ran a scraper that iterated through a list of movies to run the appropriate queries. A typical query is ran by SNS Scrape with the words of the movie title. Once we finished looking for and accumulating tweets made in the first 2 months of a movie's release, we then processed and cleaned these tweets so they could be a bit more manageable by putting them all into one data frame. After that, we simply removed any unwanted characters such as ats and hashtags, but kept in punctuation, I guess, for later analysis. This was done by this method right here. After getting all the nitty-gritty out the way, we were also able to perform EDA, exploratory data analysis, based on the newly acquired and clean data frames, which were the processed tweets and the top movies of the year. We plotted out the release dates of the movies and saw that very few movies were released at the start of the year. However, the distribution is mostly normal for the rest of the year. Looking at the box office numbers, we saw a hard right skew for all the different box office stats, showing that most movies bring in uniform amounts with only one outlier dragging graphs to the right. In each of these cases, that movie was Spider-Man Far From Home. The second data set contained our web scrape tweets. We wanted to get frequency distributions for our movies, so we tokenized each individual tweet, removed the stop words, got the stems, and then we got the frequency rates of the different words used for each movie. Running this program was very frustrating as the kernel would always die or the connection would time out during tweet processing. Ultimately, we realized we couldn't get the frequency distributions for every single tweet for every movie in 2021. So we chose to just get the frequency distributions for two movies and compare them. We looked at Black Widow and F9, The Fast Saga. The distributions on the graph were relatively very similar. Our next step was performing sentiment analysis on the movie tweets. We used the Vader lexicon and rule set for sentiment analysis as it is quite optimized for social media. We were able to get the sentiment scores, positive, negative, neutral, and compound for each movies we're able to web scrape tweets for. We combined this data set with the box office numbers to get all our data on one data frame. We did a little data cleaning to make sure we were only comparing movies that garnered at least 1,000 tweets in the past 2 months after it was released and removed outliers. And then we looked at how average compound sentiment analysis scores and domestic box office numbers compare. Our comparisons of compound scores to domestic box office numbers show little to no correlation between the variables. On the other hand, there was a clear trend in the number, or there was a clear upward trend in the number of tweets in domestic box office numbers. We looked at the spread of the movies based on their negative, positive, and neutral average tweets, and when compared to the box office numbers, these all looked the same. We then looked at the average compound scores and the number of tweets affected the domestic box office numbers with OLS, which still showed that only the number of tweets had any sort of correlation. All this supports our hypothesis that the sentiment of the tweets don't really matter. All that matters is the numbers. I guess there really is no such thing as bad press.